Hey, well, listen, the national championship is over, but that doesn't mean we got to stop talking ball here, right? That doesn't mean we got to stop. We still got a whole lot of topics that we're going to discuss. Obviously, we'll discuss the main topics with recapping the national championship game. We got a little bit of controversy in the transfer portal. What else is new? But listen, we talk ball here at Athletes Forum Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. It's Wednesday, so you know what that means. We're back with another edition. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. College Crew on X, College Sports Crew YouTube channel, College Sports Crew on TikTok, right? But more importantly, I like to keep this interactive, so drop a comment. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think about any of the following topics we have on today's episode. Speaking of today's episode and what we'll kind of talk about, let's go over to the board and see what's on the menu, right? We're obviously going to recap, the national championship that really was a good one. I thought it was a good one. It was a competitive one. It was a mature one, so to say. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Controversy in the portal, right? No surprise. Darian Mensah, is he returning back to Duke? Right, we'll react to that. Right, the truth about the SEC. Right, we're Florida Gator fans. Right, so we got to at least dive into the SEC a little bit. The truth about the SEC and what that means. Right. And then what's next? What we got coming down the pipeline here at Athletes Forum Podcast, right? So first things first, first thing we do got to talk about, we do got to dive into is the national championship. I thought it was a good one. I thought it was a mature one. And what do I mean by that? I thought we had a lot of good matchups. I thought we had a lot of good back and forth. I thought there was a lot of cat and mouse between both OCs and DCs. I thought this was a good game. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, but you could tell those are two teams just really trying to fill each other out, right? And then ultimately in that second half of the game, things really just took off, right? Things really just took off, and we started gaining momentum. People started figuring each other out in the game, and ultimately, Indiana was able to pull it away. I think a couple things in this game. One, Indiana winning the national championship has done something that literally you think about all the other schools that don't have that rich championship history, a la TCU a couple years ago. Indiana has done something that is going to be able to provide a lot of schools hope, and it's going to make the playoff race even more dramatic, even more drastic, even more wild than we've ever seen before, because now teams are trying to figure out what that formula is. Not everyone's going to be Curt Cignetti. Not everyone's going to be Fernando Mendoza in the Indiana Hoosiers team, but they got to figure out what fits them and how they're going to be able to flip the script and really battle, right? And kudos to Cignetti, because not only did he do it at a school that was the losingest program right in all college football, not only did he do it at a school that's primarily a basketball school, not only did he do it at a school that doesn't have a good history reputation, but he also did it in the best conference in football. And we'll dive into that a little bit later today. I thought throughout the game, I thought it was a good defensive match. I thought, Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, who obviously if you watch the show, we follow the TikToks and the shorts, are guys I'm very high of. I thought those guys played well. I thought Miami played well. I thought they figured some things out. Obviously, the block punt really killed their game, really killed the momentum in the game for them. And yeah, Fernando Mendoza really just picked on the same guys when it came to the back shoulder fades, right? You got to know what's coming on those third downs, those fourth downs, and you still weren't able to stop it. So Miami deserved to lose obviously those are the plays that they couldn't stop. Outside of that, Miami did a good job. Miami did a good job at least, switching things up, right? Making things hard on Indiana in that offense, right? Fernando Mendoza really didn't have like a great game, but it was impactful, right? You think about that 4th and 5, that QB draw, and probably a picture, a scene, a moment Hoosier fans are going to remember for years to come. For years to come, with him diving into the end zone, with him having the bloody mouth, right? Because Miami was getting after them, right? I thought this was an awesome game, right? You look at the other side of Miami. Listen, Mark Fletcher Jr., two tutties, right? They did what they were supposed to do offensively, especially on the offensive line. I think Indiana really gave them trouble, and I mean that. I think Indiana's interior front really gave Miami trouble on the front line. They got some things figured out in the second half, but it was hard to run. It was hard to really get Miami into a rhythm, right? What was it Shannon Dawson, Sean Dawson, whoever the OC is for Miami? I think he, I think he called an okay game, right? I think he called an okay game. I think if they, I wanted them to see them get the run game going earlier, right? Because I feel like that would have opened up more things in the second half, more play action, right? More RPO, right? Get the ball out in the hands of the weapons. I thought that would have opened the offense more, and I think he got a little too pass happy. Listen, I'm not here to nick and pick. Obviously, he knows this offense, he knows the scheme, he knows the situation from being in it better than we do from sitting in our couch, right? But it just felt like Miami. It was one of those games where they needed the attempts to matter, and I don't feel like they really mattered until they got going in the second half. And then we talk about the magical comeback that they were about to embark on with Carson Beck, and it would have been a storybook ending, but it just never got there. Right, Carson Beck was leading the team down the field with what was it under a minute to go. Right, he did a good job of not really forcing anything all game, and then first of all, I don't even like the play. I don't even like the play call when it's 3-by-1, right? Indiana's in cover 2, right? The field corner on the single receiver side is really not threatened, right? By number 3 backside on the crosser. So he's able to not just jam the receiver, but sink into the void. And then Carson Beck, if you're gonna miss that throw, you can't underthrow one, you can't miss inside two, right? Because you have the corner and the safety coming over the top. If you're gonna miss it, it has to be over the outside shoulder. Listen, he knows that. He knows that. I'm sure there's something he's got to think about for the rest of his life. But ultimately, I don't like the play call, right? If you're gonna get that look defensively, I'd rather you go 2-by-2 or go empty, right? Because you need something to threaten those corners to loosen that void, right? If anything, go 2-by-2 and really get your mismatch with the back, on the linebacker or the middle runner. So, I thought there were a million type of ways they could have handled that particular situation. But that last play call, that last throw, Miami, they played a great second half, but ultimately, obviously, it came down what it came down to. The Indiana Hoosiers, the JMU Indiana Hoosiers, are national champions. Shout out to Signetti. And now we take a look at what next year is going to look like in that sense. But obviously, this was a great game, right? 27-20, right? There's not really much more to say about it. It's been a great year of college football, and to be honest, the month of January, when you look at college football and NFL, it's been great. It's been great all around too. So it's not much we could definitely say about that. But again, Indiana Hoosiers are your national championship for this college football season, right? Let's pay some bills. If you're not already, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, right? College Sports Crew, we're almost at 100 subscribers. This was a team that we one, I was able to be a part of. 2, we were able to build this thing up from scratch. We're almost at that checkpoint of 100. Just share this with a friend. Drop a comment. College Sports Crew on TikTok, College Sports Crew on YouTube, College Crew on X, right? Join the locker room, join the gang, all right, and let's talk some ball here, right? All right, what we got next on the board, right? And again, if you're here, drop a comment. Let us know what you think. Is Duke getting their star quarterback back on the team? Do they even want him back on the team, right? And if you've been living under a rock, and this is news that just broke probably a week and a half ago, right? Duke University is suing their star quarterback, Darian Mensah, right? Darian Mensah, and this is probably an act. This is probably a movement affected by the transfer portal, and maybe is going to be something that really changes things in the transfer portal, right? So let's talk about it, right? Darian Mensah, right? Quarterback for Tulane 2 years ago under John Summerall. Shout out to the Gators. Transfers to Duke this past season, right? Duke goes 7-5. They lose some games out of conference that they shouldn't have lost, right? But ultimately, because the ACC is so fucked up, they end up going to the ACC championship to play Virginia. Maybe their best win of the season, right? They go to the ACC championship and they end up winning. Duke, not just the basketball team. Duke, the football team, is your ACC champions, right? Led by Darian Mintz in that school, right? Fast forward past the bowl game. Fast forward throughout the playoffs. Darian Mintz, I'm not leaving Duke. Allegedly, I'm not leaving Duke. I'm staying. Has to be good to hear that as Duke in the world of transfer portal and the quarterbacks leaving. Has to be good to hear from in the alumni and stuff like that. But then as of recent, things start to change for the Duke program. And what do I mean by that? I mean Darian Mintz is entertaining the fact that he is going into the transfer portal. Why? Why do you think he's going into the transfer portal? It has to be over a bag, right? He was the highest paid quarterback out of the transfer portal last year at Duke. And now the only reason to leave is either money or you feel like you could be a national title contender. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but again, if you follow the breadcrumbs, I think money's playing a big part of that. And who's connected to Darian Mintz? There's only one team. When you enter the portal and a no contact, right, this late in the game, and there's only one team that could be interested. You put the breadcrumbs together, and it's the U. It's Miami. You saw what they did with Cam Ward, right? You saw what they did with Carson Beck, right? People thought it was going to be Ty Simpson. It's Darian Mintz. It's Darian Mintz. So Darian Mintz is trying to leave Duke now, trying to get out of his NIL with Duke and transfer to Miami from what we're hearing, right? So this is gonna be interesting, right? Because obviously you got litigation, you're working with some smart people at Duke, right? Duke University is filing a lawsuit against their star quarterback, right? So Duke is essentially claiming that the contract is exclusive rights to the NIL of Darian Mintz's name, image, and likeness, all right? And that they're saying he breached an agreement by attempting to transfer, right? The university is now really trying to seek injunction to prevent this from even happening, right? From him even enrolling into another school or playing for another university, right? Listen, this is gonna get interesting because now you're seeing a trend. Obviously, you saw what Washington did with Damon Williams Jr. and their quarterback, right? This hearing between Duke, Darian Mintz, and this lawsuit is scheduled for February 2nd. That's way past the transfer portal window, way past decisions were made. We're either gonna know ahead of time he's staying at Duke and this might not even happen, or he's going to Miami and this lawsuit is gonna happen, right? As of the news that we found out recently, a judge has really denied temporary restraining orders that would have kept him out of the transfer portal. But Mintz still can't enroll in new school until the legal process plays out, right? So this is really going to prolong a lot of things. And if it is Miami, well, now from everything that is going through the breadcrumbs with Miami allegedly, gonna pay Duke out, gonna pay, everything out to get him out of that, allegedly, right? But again, if the judge filed against it, he has to stay at Duke. Now Miami doesn't have a quarterback, and there's no second transfer portal window. So this could be an opportunity where Miami could get caught in the mix, and we may see a downgrade. They're already losing a ton of O linemen. They're losing a ton of D linemen, right? And that's what the U is really built off of, right? How they're built up front, right? Now, is Jordan Seaton going to commit to Miami, right? We'll see to solidify that O-line, but you still need that quarterback. So this is going to be interesting. Let me tell you from this perspective. Let me tell you from a player's perspective, right? If Darian Mintz was my teammate, all right, and after telling me he's not leaving, and now he wants to leave, personally, I would feel some type of way because now you lied to my face. All right. Now, if you told me from the jump, listen, this is a better opportunity, right? I don't want to leave, but I may have to. If you kept it up front with me from the beginning, then I'm behind you. I'm your brother, right? I'm going to support you. But the moment you lie to me and say, listen, I'm not leaving, right? I'm staying at Duke. And now you're going to chase a bag then I'm going to feel some type of way. And now, if he can't even get out of that uh, litigation, right, and he has to stay at Duke, do the Duke players even want him? I would feel some type of way with him coming back. I play defense, trust me. I would feel some type of way if he was welcome back. Ultimately, I would get over it, but I'm telling you, in practice, that red jersey wouldn't mean anything. That red jersey wouldn't mean anything. He might get a little bump or two. I'm not trying to kill a teammate, but listen, there's gonna be some hard discussions and things we have to settle out. So that's what is the latest on the Darian Mensah thing. Is he returning back to Duke? Allegedly, we don't know. We'll find out February 2nd. Is that hearing? Right? Is that hearing? And who knows? We'll see how it all plays out. Right? All right. Next on the board, we got the truth of the SEC. All right, SEC fans. It's time we have a talk. It's time, we kind of dive into the reality of what the SEC is. And the quicker we could get over the fact that, the dominance is no longer what it is, the top is no longer as strong as they used to be. And the Big Ten is the conference. The Big Ten is the conference. 3 years in a row, Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana, national champions, right? We got Michigan beating, if you think about it, right? When was the last time the SEC? Was it Alabama? Was it Georgia? It was probably Georgia, but the SEC hasn't sniffed a natty a natty appearance in a long time. In a long time, right? So the truth about the SEC is you're not as good, you're not as strong, and you could claim that it's hard to win in the SEC. Listen, we just saw 3 Big Ten teams pull off a three-peat in the natty, all right? A three-peat in the natty. I think next year we're gonna give a true idea, true parallel in regards to the SEC versus other schools, since the SEC is going from 8 to 9 conference games, right? You're going to see a lot of teams really go cupcake route on the out of conference games, right? It is what it is. Look what Indiana did, right? They were playing like Old Dominion, Kennesaw State. I don't even know the other school before they even played their Big Ten schedule. Now, granted, they could have been an anomaly because you still had to play Iowa, Oregon, Ohio State, Bama, Penn State, Oregon again, and Miami. So regardless of who they played, they were just a good team overall, right? But the SEC, like, what's next for the SEC? Like, you think about the teams at the top, right? You think about Texas, you think about LSU, right? You think about A&M, right? Georgia, right? The top is strong. The second tier is somewhat strong. But the team, we don't know what Florida's going to be, right? We don't know what Kentucky's going to be. Is Ole Miss going to take a step back? Is Alabama going to take a step back? Spoiler, I think Alabama's going to take a step back, right? Vanderbilt, Jared Curtis, their quarterback. He's going to be a freshman probably. He'll probably start for Vanderbilt. How quick does he adjust to not just the college game, but the SEC game, right? The SEC, I think Josh Pace said this well. I think the SEC got lazy, not just in their recruiting, right? But they got lazy in their developmental process, the hiring of coaches, and really, really harping on developing those 2s and 3s. And, now we're getting guys that not just chasing bags, we're going somewhere where they could get an opportunity to win and play ball. And that's all kids want to do these days. So the truth of the SEC is we're the second best conference. We're the second best conference. We're a conference that hasn't been in the natty in a couple of years. You got schools like the ACC, Notre Dame, the Pac-12 a couple of years ago that have been all in national champions, right? Who's going to be that team to turn it around? All right. Because you're going to have teams like Auburn, Florida, all right, that are going to be on the rise. You're going to have Texas A&M, Georgia, that are going to, still be tough matchups. You're going to have Alabama that's really almost in a prove-it spot at this point based on how they ended the season and the amount of guys they're losing, right? So how does the SEC turn this thing around? How do they get back into those national championship discussions and real talk, honestly, because right now, when you think about his seasons and you're saying those teams, you're really going off brand. Right? You're going off the brand of Texas, the brand of Alabama, A&M, but those brands really haven't lived up to expectations. Texas A&M, they lose in the first round. Ohio State lose to not Ohio State. Texas loses to Ohio State, right? They lose to Mississippi State, right? Those brands are living up to what they are. Alabama, right? We saw the type of season they had and how they finished the year. Georgia, another first round exit, right? We need the brands of the SEC and ultimately the as a whole conference, right? We need to step it up. There's no other way around it. The SEC needs to step it up. So listen, shout out to the Big Ten, right? And listen, I think the Big Ten, they're even stronger, right? Because USC is getting better. Oregon is reloading. Michigan's going to be a better team. Ohio State is going to be good. What's Penn State going to look like? Indiana now you got to deal with. Northwestern's going to be better, right? Listen, Washington, you can't forget about Washington, right? The Big Ten, listen, they're the top dogs. It is what it is, right? It is what it is at this point. All right. What's next? What's next for the Athletes Forum podcast? What's next for the show? What could you be looking forward to? Well, first of all, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. College Sports Crew on TikTok, College Crew on X. You can even subscribe to Athletes Forum podcast. Catch a couple of my videos. I cover college ball, right? And I cover European ball too, right? Yes, there is American football in Europe. That could be a topic for another day. Well, what are we going to dive into here on Athletes Forum podcast with College Sports Crew, right? We'll get into some basketball. I wanted to talk some basketball today, but the slate today is trash. If anything, there's a good women's slate tomorrow, a couple of ranked matchups if you wanted to dive into there. Maybe I'm located in the Southeast, so maybe we'll dive into some bets. If you're a gambling type of person, we'll dive into that realm too, right? We'll talk about the draft, right? We'll talk about prospecting. I got my friend who's a scout. Maybe I'll talk with Snacks as well too. If you follow the channel on Unfiltered, we'll talk some not just recruiting, but we'll talk about picking prospecting and scouting players as well too. I do have a football background. And more college football, right? That's what you can look forward to here on Athletes Forum Podcast. But again, thank you all for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I'm here all the time, chopping it up with you guys, right? Thank you all for tuning in. Every Wednesday, 8:05, College Sports Crew.